YouTube. I've been holding a clip in this video for a while. I'm going to give you a little bit of my story. I've already done it in other videos, but it's quite clear to me that people don't actually watch them. And if they do watch them, they watch one and don't watch the others that are connected to it. It's a little bit like how the police behave, taking each incident in isolation to everything else around it and not looking at any other supportive evidence. So I was abused many times as a child, and I was homeless on the streets as a child, and I took to stealing to get by, and I became a thief. And I spent many years going in and out of prisons. In about 1989, I was in a prison, and I was doing group therapy in that prison. James English has interviewed a few people from that prison. He interviewed prison officer Joe Chapman. He interviewed Noel Razor Smith. And he interviewed Terry Ellis. As far as I know, Terry Ellis and Noel Razor Smith aren't sex offenders. And neither am I. So during group therapy, for the first time in my life, aged about 27, I started talking about the childhood sexual abuse I'd had, because it was linked to my offending behaviour. After doing that for a few months, I really thought that I was in a trusted environment and that I should report all the incidents that I'd been subjected to the police. But when I asked to do that, I was told to go back to my group and discuss what my motivations might be. And I was fobbed off and fobbed off and fobbed off. And then people started putting pressure on me to shut up talking about it. That pressure continued when I was released from that prison sentence. In my view, it's the silencing of survivors of abuse that makes it far more difficult for other people to come up and say that they've been abused. It's things like people spreading rumours that those abused in childhood will go on to abuse children themselves. That's a paedophile's argument to shut up their victims. It's an argument used by Bill Maloney and John WEDGER and Brian HARVEY. So under enormous pressure, I did shut up for a while and tried to get on with my life. But life isn't easy when you've been abused as a child and you have a long criminal record. The abuse never leaves your mind. I don't know about other survivors, but it never leaves my mind. It's always there in the back of my mind, ticking away. It affects everything I do. It means I can't have relationships with people. So in October 2011, when the Jimmy Savile news broke, and those sort of stories were on TV and in the papers every day, It's not just quietly ticking away in the back of your mind, the abuse you suffered as a child. It becomes very loud in your head. And people were being told that these times were different and people didn't cover things up anymore. In my experience, that's not true. One of the people that abused me was Kenneth Campbell, the first man to read the news on BBC television. He molested me with a group of other men in a public toilet in my local park when I was about 8 years old. There were other incidents after that. A deputy headmaster, other men being slightly inappropriate, started making me feel like my identity had been passed around, because it was quite surprising how people just thought they could try something on. So I didn't get on very well at home. And aged 14, coming up to about 15, I was thrown out of home. I went to social services and told them that I was homeless. They didn't put me in care. I sat in the front office there for hours. And when the office closed, they just kicked me out. So I was street homeless, aged 14. I bumbled around my local area. Stayed with a couple of friends for a couple of nights. But at that age, people don't want you in their house. They think you should be at home, or somebody should be looking after you. I agree, they should be. I stole some money. I ended up in the West End, Soho, with its bright lights. The money didn't last long. And on the last few pennies, I went into an amusement arcade to try and win a little bit of money so I could get a drink. And a friendly man came up to me. He didn't seem to be trying anything on. He invited me back to his house. The house was in Real Crescent in the borough of Kensington and Chelsea. A lot of very rich people lived there, well-off people. And all the houses look exactly the same. The man told me he worked in the music industry, told me all the stories about the people that he knew, etc. And there was evidence in the flat that the person who owned it or the person who lived there had something to do with the music industry. So when the Jimmy Savile thing broke and people were being encouraged to come forward and give information, it played on my mind a lot, and I decided that I would do it. And the police lied about their ability to investigate it. They told me that data protection would prevent them from finding out who lived at that address. And being somebody who's had a lot to do with police being investigated, solicitors and the criminal justice system, I know that's a lie. So why are they lying? I had to make complaints. They didn't want to take my complaints. I had to fight to get them to take my complaints. Then in the end, they put me through a 4 or 5 hour ABE interview, achieving best evidence interview. I've got no genuine belief that that interview was about getting to the truth who abused me in that flat. It was more about collecting information about me to use against me, to shut me up. So we now get into 2013, and I've been following Bill Maloney online. I've met him a couple of times at Occupy St Paul's. I wasn't really sure about Bill Maloney. I went down to Parliament Square. I met Bill Maloney, questioned him to his face. I definitely didn't believe him after that. Ben Fellows was there, Brian Harvey was there, John WEDGER was there. I've been trying for a number of years to move out of my flat in London that I lived in for 13 years. I've been on a website called Home Swapper, and I'd had no luck in moving. Then all of a sudden in 2013, I got a message from a woman in Plymouth. I wanted to exchange her flat for mine. She came and looked at my flat and wanted it. I went and looked at her flat. I weren't that keen, it was a bit of a shithole really, but it had a garden. I've never had a garden. I thought living somewhere quieter might be good for my mental health. I was wrong about that. From the time I got there for 7 years, I got harassed, threatened, isolated in my flat. I'm at a housing association, spreading around personal social media addresses, shared with them by the police. I got stalked and harassed online. It was quite clear to me that my housing association was trying to evict me from my home. They went to massive lengths to put lies about me down in paperwork. They wouldn't be able to produce a shred of evidence, but it's there in paperwork, so it must be true, right? Finally, they evicted me at the beginning of this year. I moved somewhere else. I started getting the same harassment. It's not a coincidence. And I know where it comes from.
So the first thing we need to do is speak to the dormant. So obviously this is like a lot of things that have gone on. The person who had the issue with you that evening though, is that someone you've dealt with before and never seen them? So that potentially isn't part of a group of people.
There are rumours being spread, right? It gets to sound quite paranoid. When I try to explain it, I've tried to report incidents. Because for stalking and harassment, it has to be an ongoing course of action.
It has to be a course of conduct, it has to be from the same person.
Ah, right, well I've read online that's different.
But
a group of people.
But what it can be as well is it can be through a third party.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't minimise the effects on a human being.
No, and has anybody...
Well, the thing is, when people are running a smear campaign against you,
right,
you don't know who knows what.
Okay. There's nothing to know, is there?
No, well, exactly. But it doesn't stop people. If I knew a few people, I could say to them, "That bloke's a paedophile. He's a right wrong and blah 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 blah." They're going to go and tell somebody else. They're going to tell somebody, and in a little small.
The nature of this town.
Well, it's the nature of every town. So once that spreads around. And mud sticks, especially that sort of mud, then people are treating you in quite hostile ways if they're not being openly up front.
Yeah.
And that gets quite weird. That would be almost like having a psychotic mental illness where people are being hostile to you without there being any real cause. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
and you're going, why is everybody treating me like that?
Yeah, but that's what will happen if there is a rumour.
Have you any idea what it's like to have your life threatened and go through that for 28 years?
I'm a police officer.
Okay.
So obviously, if you're looking for us to do stuff,
See this?
then you need to.
I've moved from Plymouth because of this behaviour.
Right.
Okay.
So it's happening in Plymouth as well.
Yes. Immediately I got to Plymouth. Okay. See this T-shirt?
Yeah.
I put that on the line and I forgot to bring it in. I went out to get it the next day. It's been cut. Alright. I've got a recording in there of a painter and decorator that I had in my house who, after I told him, we were talking about the Jimmy Savile inquiry.
Was this in Plymouth? Right.
This was the Jimmy Savile inquiry.
Right.
When that was going on, I reported historic sexual abuse.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't find the police particularly helpful. I did a 5-hour Achieving Best Evidence video with them. But they also lied about their ability to investigate it initially, which prompted me to have to make a complaint.
Right.
They didn't like the fact that I made a complaint. Then it seemed like they were trying to make my life quite difficult.
Can we just stay on track with this incident?
Well, we can.
Because I'm not here all day, if I'm completely honest.
Right, it's quite complicated, isn't it?
It's not really. Not the same stuff starting
Yeah.
again. You're not saying things to people
No.
or anything like that. Because why? Because without sounding strange,
Yeah.
if you look at you,
Yeah.
you look like a well-dressed man who, you know, you get this kind of stereotypical paedophile look, and we deal with this sort of thing.
Well, not all
and you're
paedophiles
not-
look like that.
Yeah, but this is the problem. When we deal with incidents of that nature,
Yeah.
there's a certain look which tends to attract a certain level of attention.
I understand that, yeah.
And you don't have that.
I
look.
know, I understand that.
So
Well, I've got glasses,
Yeah,
maybe.
no, but you're not-
Yeah, and
I
I don't wear a
think-
dirty old Mac.
I think I
Yeah.
probably look more like a paedophile than you.
No, I don't think so.
Bald, a bit fat, and whatever.
No, you're not.
So you're not like. I don't understand how it's being generated.
Because there are rumours being spread.
But how has that happened within 2 weeks? And you couldn't have come any further. I'm assuming
Wait.
there's no one that you know that's been in Plymouth that's up here now, or
Oh,
you come with friends. Or,
No.
Right.
I keep my mouth shut, I keep myself to myself, basically, because I live every second of my day in fear of being attacked and murdered.
Right. Nothing has happened yet in terms of you coming to any sort of physical harm. You, like I said, the accommodation you're in whilst you're there, because we've got to look at.
Well, that's not true, officer.
Also. Go on then.
I was attacked in Plymouth. Yeah, but I was attacked in Plymouth by a random stranger
Okay.
who called me a kiddie fiddler,
Right.
assaulted me with a weapon.
What sort of weapon?
It was a yard broom
Okay.
with a metal spike on the side of it,
Right.
which punctured a hole right through my cheek.
Right. How long ago was that?
That would have been 3 years ago.
Right.
Well,
And then-
obviously not, because I
Well,
won't
no,
be staying here.
But that's.
But why me as a human being,
I don't know.
who you said isn't a paedophile?
Yeah. Oh, you've got lots of other
It's going-
convictions and a record.
I have a lot of
things,
convictions,
but
yeah.
but nothing.
Yeah, I've never been questioned about sexual offending. But the thing is, it's a hate campaign.
But what you've got to understand from my point of view
Yeah.
is most people can live their life quite ordinarily
Yeah.
without come into contact with these situations.
Yeah.
There is a pattern of things that are happening to you,
Yeah.
and I've got to, as a police officer, look at the situation
Yeah.
and think to myself, is there anything that you're doing to generate that issue? Because it seems hugely coincidental that within 2 weeks of the same stuff that's happening in Plymouth is happening to you here. It's just, is it too much of a coincidence?